I remember the day Mommy told me I was going to have a sister. She'd always say I couldn't possibly remember it, as I was only 2 at the time. But I do. I remember her picking me up, smiling, and telling me,
"Vanessa, you're going to be a big sis."
She was glowing. I know it sounds like a cliche, but she really was. Her fiery red hair shined brighter in the sunlight that illuminated my room. Her pale skin was so smooth and pristine it looked like ivory, and her green eyes looked at me wider than usual. When they brought her home from the hospital, I remember how happy I felt. I couldn't wait to play with my sister, to share my toys with her, to spend hours together inventing stories. I would have pushed her on the swing like Daddy did with me. I wanted to hold her, but they wouldn't let me, said I was too young. Mommy passed that little body wrapped in a soft blanket to Nana, who was at home with me while Mommy and Daddy were in the hospital, and told her,
"Mom, meet Ashley."
For the first month, I spent hours watching her, even if she was just sleeping in her crib. She was so beautiful. Her hair were light brown like mine and Daddy's, and they were so soft. I would talk to her, tell her about all the amazing things we would have done, told her my favorite stories. Mommy laughed and told me that Ashley couldn't understand me, but I'm sure she did. Mommy doesn't have any brother or sister. She can't understand how close they can be, how much I loved my little sister. Other times, she told me to leave her alone, that she needed to sleep, and that in my frenzy I was talking too loud and woke her up and made her cry. I didn't want to leave the room. Ashley wasn't crying because I woke her up. She was crying because she didn't want me to leave either. I told Mommy that, but she grew angry and told me to go play, that I needed to be patient. And I was. I saw Ashley starting to walk, her adorable little walk that made her look like a baby penguin who's about to sleep on the ice at any second. I was always close to her, ready to grab her if she did fall. I didn't want her to get hurt, but Daddy told me she had to learn on her own, just like I did. When Ashley was finally old enough to play with me, I was over the moon. We played all of my favorite games. I taught her how to play hide and seek. I let her use my prettiest dolls. We were always together, and we made up our own secret language. When I had to start school, I cried for days because they told me that Ashley couldn't come with me. I didn't want to go if she wasn't there as well, and she would have been lonely and sad too. In fact, she also started to cry, even though she didn't understand where I was gonna be all day, but she saw that I was sad, and that made her sad as well. When I started 3rd grade, Ashley was gonna be in 1st grade, and we could finally be together again, play at recess, and when once a boy made fun of her, I went over to him and put him in his place. As soon as we'd get home, we'd go back to our toys and games. We shared our room, and during the night, she'd often snuggle in my bed, so if she had a bad dream, I was there to comfort her and protect her from anything, whether they'd be monsters that lurked in the darkness or just mean young boys making fun of her. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep her safe as much as I wanted to, as much as I thought I was able to. I was 13 and she was 10 when it happened. Daddy liked fishing, so one time he brought us with him. We had an inflatable canoe, and while Daddy sat by the lake, we'd paddle away, never too far. I was very good at swimming, but Ashley not so much, so Daddy kept shouting at us to get back closer to him, that we'd wander off. It all happened so fast. Ashley saw a silvery fish swimming just under the surface of the water, close to our canoe, and she stuck her head out, grabbing the side of the canoe with both hands, trying to see it better. The sudden movement made the canoe capsize, and there we were, in the cold water, the shadow of the canoe above us, making everything dark. I looked for Ashley. I wanted to grab her and bring her back up, but I couldn't see her, so I kept swimming down, hoping I could find her. My lungs were burning, and then all was black. When I opened my eyes, I was on the shore. I stood up and saw Daddy hunched over Ashley. Her lips were blue and her eyes closed. Daddy was crying and pressing on her chest. I started crying too, so loud that I couldn't hear anything else. Then the memories are all fuzzy. I remember the ambulance. The siren was the only sound louder than my screaming and crying. I remember Ashley laying on the gurney. I remember being at home and everything was darker, as if a black cloud had darkened the sun. I remembered the funeral. I stayed in the back. Nobody came to talk to me. I was grateful about that, as I didn't feel like talking to anyone else or even listen to how sorry they all were. I fixated on the picture of Ashley and kept thinking how much we looked alike, as if we were not only sisters but twins. I saw the man shoving earth onto the casket. I remember hearing Mom cry every night. Then I started seeing her, Ashley. She first came to me while I was sleeping, and I thought I was dreaming, but I soon realized that it was all true. I asked her if she was an angel, and she laughed. "No, silly, but I could never be without you. You know this. Nothing can keep us apart." She was right. Our bond had always been so strong that not even death could take her away from me. I was happy again, but I was the only one that could see her. Mom was still sad. She cried all the time, and Dad just stayed in his office all day. When I tried telling them that Ashley wasn't really gone, that I could still see her, they just ignored me. They probably thought I was crazy or that I was imagining her as a way to cope with the loss. But I knew. She really was there. 6 months after the accident, one night Ashley crawled into bed with me like she did when we were kids. I was almost asleep when a loud bang echoed throughout the house and jolted me awake. I ran out of the room, telling Ashley to stay there, and went downstairs. I heard Mom scream and found her in the office, collapsed on the floor. Dad was in his chair, blood pouring from his temple, eyes wide open, the gun still in his hand. On the desk, there was a piece of paper that only said,
"It's all my fault. I couldn't save her."
I tried to talk to Mom, to do something, anything, but it was like she couldn't even hear me. She kept crying hysterically on the floor. I ran back up to Ashley. I hugged her, telling her what happened, and she sobbed uncontrollably. We cried together for hours. When the ambulance came, the doctors called my Nana because they needed to sedate Mom and bring her to the hospital as well. Once again, I was home alone with Nana while Mom and Dad were at the hospital. This time, instead of bringing another life with them, only one of them would come back. "Ashley," I spoke for the first time since I told her about Dad. The sky outside was turning lighter as dawn approached. "Why does Dad say it's all his fault? I saw him rescue you, trying to revive you. He called the ambulance. He did everything he could. Why did he..." I couldn't finish the sentence. Ashley smiled at me, a smile full of sadness. "He's not talking about me." "What?" New tears started rolling down Ashley's cheeks. "Vanessa, that day, Dad jumped in the lake and swam to us. He grabbed me and saw I wasn't breathing, but he couldn't find you. You were swimming to the bottom looking for me. He knew that he had to bring me to the shore immediately, and so he did. He was so sure you could hold on until he came back. You were such a good swimmer. When the ambulance arrived, he went back to the lake, but it was too late. He blames himself for leaving you there and saving me. But I made it back. I saw when he was trying to resuscitate you." "Vanessa, do you remember the funeral?" "Of course. I didn't want to see you in the coffin, so I stayed in the back." "I wasn't in the coffin. I was in the hospital, recovering from having nearly drowned." I stopped and thought back at the funeral. Nobody talked to me. I didn't look into the coffin. The picture next to it was me. "Vanessa, I didn't die. You did." Hello, creepy readers. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, you can browse the library and check out my older readings, and keep in mind that it's in the dustiest books that you may find the best stories.